Okay, moving on to the next step of the ideation phase, the deep dive. So now that we have our 3 startup candidates, in the deep dive step, we're going to expand one of those into a full business model that we can then base a newsletter article on. So there are 2 things that we need to cover here. First, there's candidate selection. So we need to decide which candidate to develop into a newsletter post. For now, we're actually going to keep this super simple and just pick the top scoring candidate of the current run, so one of the 3 that we just generated. We'll actually come back to this and implement a more sophisticated candidate selection algorithm, including a ranking function, as well as vector similarity search, so we can make sure that ideas are varied and not too similar to previous ones. But for now, simple is totally fine. And then we need to implement the actual Agentic LLM call. So similar to previous ones, that's where we pass in the existing startup candidate and then generate the business model data and persist it. Now, I think this would be a good opportunity for an exercise. So before you watch the next section, why don't you take a stab at writing the deep dive prompt yourself? We'll talk a little bit about context. So think about it this way. You're writing a newsletter that pitches a startup idea to technical readers. What would you need to research before writing this? For example, you'd probably want to know how the business makes money and what competitors already exist. What else would make the article compelling and credible? Maybe you'll want to talk about the go-to-market strategy, or maybe even cover a suggested tech stack to build an MVP. So first come up with a list of things that you need so you can then write the newsletter post. And then write a prompt that creates a new step in our pipeline that takes a startup candidate as input and generates a detailed business model with all of the information you need to write a full newsletter article from it. So pause here, come up with your prompt, and then come back so we can compare and see how to proceed.